Small world.
It's not allowed to be unrealistic.
Thanks. Hi, how are you all today?
Very
Doing great,
good.
man. How are you?
It's amazing to chat with you all. I'm okay, thanks. So, Rob, I wanted to start with you actually. As you wrote and directed this film, I was wondering how did you get the idea for the story?
It's based on producer Michael Baker's real life. He is the real life Simon. He grew up in a Mormon household and at 16 chased a girl to Ottawa under the guise that he thought he was being given the right signals, only to find out he was not. I had just come off of making my last movie, Harpoon, which is three people stuck on a boat, completely different than this one. And it was during COVID that I was approached by Michael to write his next one. And, you know, at first I was like, I don't think I'm the right person for this. I just did this movie about three people trying to eat each other. But the more we spoke about, his Mormon upbringing, I had a Catholic upbringing, went to a public high school, just a huge shift in my life at 16. Um, I just found more and more instances of teenage dynamics having a lot to do with horror elements, like your first relationship with a girl, your social circle, all these things are like life or death for a lot of these teenagers. As soon as I attacked it from that angle, I figured out I could get in there. I was having conversations with my father, who's uh, diagnosed with cancer at the time, about regrets, and he was saying, "Well, what are you scared of in doing this?" And I had always wanted to do my own Dazed Confused, my own Stand By Me, and it kind of just gave me a kick in the butt to do my version of those things that's got a little bit of my weirdness to it. And from there, it just kind of all fell into place with a teenager that was obsessed with wanting his life to be more like the movies.
That's amazing. And did he hang out on set much or give input to the cast and everything? Because it was based on him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So he was fully involved from beginning, like right through the script writing. He was on set for a little bit, but he was right involved with helping choose the cast. I used him a lot when I'd be like, is this how you would have done it? Because I grew up Catholic. I'm not familiar with a lot of the Mormon eccentricities. So I would rely heavily on him to be like, is this accurate? While we making sure. And like another part of it too is we were never trying to make a commentary on the Mormonism or the religion aspect of it. There's any situation can have a strict upbringing that requires a teenager to want to push for their own autonomy. And so I relied heavily on him too to just make sure that this wasn't an attack, that we were just trying to play it straight. And it's just more of an excuse to get into the themes of a teenagers trying to figure their who they are as people.
And Maxwell and Jeremy, how did you get involved with this project and what drew you to your characters?
Yeah. Well, I got sent over the script and I guess I'll start with what drew me to the character once I got over the sent over
Hmm.
the script. I mean, I think off first glance you get the character description and you think it's this very, hyper alienated world that, potentially like you won't really find any resonance with, but that's okay because you're an actor and you'll act. But then you dive further deeper into the character, Simon, and um, like Rob said, is it's this story could exist outside of the Mormon Church, and it could exist outside of the 1980s. It's at least with Simon. It's a story of um, coming of age and coming to terms with who you've been told that you should be your entire life, versus who you feel you want to be in your gut, and how can you find that happiness? Like, are you being a good Mormon, or are you going to be a good rock star? And how do you find comfort in threading the needle between those two worlds? I think that's a story of growing up that you could plant anywhere throughout time. Um, and then obviously the 1980s element to it, the setting, the Mormonism of it all is always interesting to work with. It's funny, I've gotten the chance to work in Utah several times, so I feel like I've worked around um, Mormons and with Mormons for so long, since I was like in eighth grade. So I think that was super helpful in approaching the character too, because I think we find a lot of ways demonize or alienate the other, and for an organization, for like a group of people that you're just, and this could apply to anything that you just don't come face to face with a lot of the time. It can be easy to, you know, just fall into a critique of it all. And I think that that was never the intention here. Is it's just like it's more so a story of coming of age and figuring out who you want to be, and satisfying all the aspects of your life. And it just so happens to fall into the world of a kid in the 1980s who is born into a Mormon family.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I think Rob reached out to me directly, and we had a couple amazing conversations about the script and exactly what the goal was. And I'm religious myself, and so we had to have a couple conversations about what the real story was here. And like Rob was saying, when it's not about religion, it's about the fact that any situation can be restrictive and kind of tell you exactly what your path should be, and that's not how anything should be. And the world's not black and white like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful story that needs to be told. And as far as Chris, my character goes, I haven't played that before. This is relatively new for me. I've done the '80s thing a couple times, obviously, but um, Chris is a really really interesting character that has a lot of layers that you don't get to see until kind of the middle of the film when you're like, oh, okay, this kid has seen some things, and uh, he's kind of the wise old sage of the group. And so that was a really interesting character to me, and it was a blast, and it was a great ensemble too. And I really like the ensemble films, and getting to work with a bunch of kids my age, and that obviously became a very fun process. So
It looked like you all had fun filming it. And so I
Mm.
was wondering, what scene did you all find the hardest or most challenging to film and act in and also direct?
I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna go with when they arrive at the derelict motel,
Mm.
not the exterior, the interior, which we shot at the same building. So that was an actual motel, and we had to build out the check-in in their storage room and shoot that all on the same day as the exteriors, as well as I think another scene, if I'm not mistaken correctly. And that turned out to be like the coldest day in Calgary in November. Or it's not November, in January or June, but it felt like November, and we were up till 3 a.m. And by then everyone's getting the giggles. So I remember that day being, that was first week, I think, too. I remember that being particularly challenging.
yeah, I mean it can be really challenging with an ensemble that is all really really funny. I think we had
Mm.
a lot of takes that were ruined from laughter, and that's what makes it fun. But at some point you really just got to lock in, and we just couldn't do that sometimes. There are lots of scenes that were really difficult because there are long scenes. We've got a lot of lines, and we've got a lot of uh, characters, and that requires a lot of lines. And so it's equally as hard to talk for a long time as it is to just sit there and react for a long time. Because obviously, when you're not talking, you're still acting. And so that
Yeah.
was really interesting to kind of go through these scenes with a lot of characters and still have to be acting the whole entire time, hearing the same monologue that you've been hearing for the last 8 hours of the day. So there's some challenging things, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. Smoking fake cigarettes and drinking fake liquor, summer camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, ensemble scenes are always fun. They're a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? They're way more fun to film than scenes by yourself, but at the same time they take much longer, and they can be that much more exhausting. Um, I think the limousine scene was particularly like one of the most challenging ensemble scenes that we had, because it's like ensemble scenes, as hard as they are, pale in comparison to ensemble scenes inside cars, inside moving vehicles, when you're fighting actual traffic and you're in a confined space and the camera's got to get in there, and you're kind of filming a little bit, all over the place, because you got to do some scenes still to pick up some coverage, and then you got to get some other scenes where you're moving on the road. And um especially for an emotional scene like that, like that is to me that's the climax of the movie a little bit, that's like a really big turning point for where are we going from here. I think the movie has quite a few big climaxes like that, but that one, at least from the Simon perspective, is just total breaking point. So going into that was definitely the most challenging, but it wasn't as scary as I imagined it from the beginning, because that was also one of the last things we shot on one of the last days. Um, so I was worried about that going into it, but we had such a great ensemble, and Rob really was such a great captain of the ship that it wasn't as overwhelming as it should have been, because he was so clear on what that scene needed to be and what it meant. I think part of that helps when you have a director who also has so much experience cutting movies together as an editor. Is like there's such a clear vision for what every scene is and what it serves purpose to. You don't get mired in the, well, what if we tried this and what if we did this? And as an actor, that can get really confusing. It's fun, but it can just really throw you off sometimes. And when you just have a solid voice through line through, that helps a lot.
Was it a bit more emotional as it was near the last day of filming? Did that help with your acting because you're near the end of it?
Sure, I think so. I mean, I think maybe. I think when I was a really young kid, I would do all the emotional scenes on the last day, like all the goodbye end scene stuff on the last day, and I would just bawl my eyes out. But something that someone told me as I became an adult actor is Zach Estrin. He was the showrunner for this show I was on called Lost in Space, and he said you get like one breakdown scene, you get like one tear in a movie as an adult, and then no one wants to see you crying the entire time, unless it's very specific circumstances. Um, so I think really learning to throw yourself into that character and putting yourself outside of the world, the set that's coming to a close is part of maturing as an actor.
That's cool. And you sort of touched on it a bit, but how much of the film was real locations and how much was a set? Rob?
I don't think there was any sets, was there? Wait, was there?
Did we film on studio at all?
I don't think so. No,
Not
like
in
so
studio.
this was
Yeah,
shot
no,
in Calgary, and actually one of the hardest parts was finding houses,
yeah,
kitchens that weren't remodeled,
yeah.
floors that were period appropriate, countertops, the condo that they all hang out at the end, thank God, had not doesn't look like it had been touched since the 60s. But yeah, that was actually more difficult than not. But there was a few times where I was like, could we just build this? Specifically with Tim's basement, I'm like, I don't think we're going to find an untouched 80s basement that's going to be like safe to breathe in
Yeah,
until
Nice.
we found that one. So
that
yeah,
place
all
was
real.
that place was pretty real.
That's
Yeah.
cool. And my
Yeah.
final question before I go is what message do you hope people will take away from this film and what would you like to see happen in the sequel?
Ooh.
Didn't we joke about the sequel that we were going to show what happens to Chris
Yeah.
and John after they escape from the police or something?
We definitely had a whole thing, and I thought we had like a really good pun for it, but I can't remember. This too shall pass, I guess what it would have been.
Yeah,
Um,
but this
I
has
guess
passed.
yeah, exactly.
The
The
past.
message I feel like I want people to take away is that
That's what it was.
life is not black and white. There are restrictive positions that you're put in, and you know, the world often tries to put monkeys and fishes in an aquarium, and those two things don't go in the same spot. You know what I mean? And so everybody has their own situations, and everybody has their own likes, and that's okay.
And what about the rest of you?
Yeah. Probably something a little similar. I mean, at least from my character's perspective, is there's uh there's no one way to be a good person and to be the person that you want to be. And growing up is just all about threading a needle. And as long as you approach it uh, without resentment or hatred towards who you are and where you come from and where you want to be, and just take everyone for who they are, and I mean, Simon comes from a pretty restrictive family that I think is easy to demonize as an audience.
Mm.
But I don't think Simon ever does that. He never demonizes his family. He's constantly caught between them wanting to be someone different than what the expectations are. Not in a malicious way, just in a that's just life. And I think he ultimately makes the decision, even though it seems like a total mess. This entire journey is just so poorly thought out on his part, and it blows up in his face countless times. Is he returns um, a more sure person of who he is, and I think if you take every decision by how can I be just the how can I be the person that will make me feel good? If you do esteemable things, you will have high self-esteem. I think that's the message I hope people take away from Simon.
That's a good message. And Rob, anything you want to share?
Yeah, for me, it was, I mean, a lot of the experiences in this movie are based on real life, whether it's from Michael Baker or from myself. I, for one, was arrested at 15, brought to the police station, and the mugshot with the pants falling down is a real story, unfortunately. Uh, but it's more to say that those things can happen and you can still find a way through, recover, become better for these mistakes, grow through them. And then, yeah, the motto of optimism of youth is a big one for me. You know, I feel like as a 41-year-old now, I've lost a bit of that. You know, it's a nice reminder that you can find a way.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on the film. I loved it. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I hope to chat with you all again soon.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
Thank you,
much.
Daniel.
Bye.
Appreciate
Bye.
it.